Hey everyone, welcome back to Sideline Shenanigans. I'm your host, Brian Jones. Welcome to the show. Today I have Coach Ryan Carmichael from Wabash High School in Wabash, Indiana, head coach of the Apaches. Coach, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Sure thing, man. So, Coach, how did you start coaching in the first place?
Uh, well, I kind of took a meandering route. I went to college right after school. Um, and I was recruited to play down at DePaul University. I spent a year down at DePaul, transferred back home to Indiana University Kokomo. Left school for a while. Wasn't really ready, I think, maturity wise, to be there and really know what I wanted to do. And
Hmm.
so I took a year off and started a family and decided, I needed to kind of get my act together as a young adult, a young man.
Hmm.
And so I started back and I transferred into history and political science. And I said, if I'm going to teach, I want to coach because those are the memories that I had from school. Was
Hmm.
participating with my friends and with my classmates in athletics, and football was always my first love. And so I got my history degree and I started teaching. And I got hired at Wabash 18 years ago, and I started coaching in the middle school, coaching football and basketball and some softball, and then worked up to the varsity level 2 years later, and have kind of, just have been around ever since. And then I took the head coaching job. This will be we're coming into year four, um, and and I just when I was looking back, when I was getting back into what I wanted to
Hmm.
do, I just kept coming back to football and the lessons that it taught me and what it did for me while I was in school. And I wanted to continue to be a part of that.
Excellent, excellent. So, what are your core values that drove your decision as head coach of the Wabash?
Well, we outlined three core principles for our team, and it's CLC. We try and keep everything into threes, and so CLC is our character, leadership, and commitment, and those are the things that really drive what we're doing, and those are things we ask our kids to do. And I've taken that from a couple of different spots, but or sources, but the last one that I kind of referenced with the kids came from Lou Holtz, and it's like, there's a couple of things I'm going to ask you to do. One of them is, um, as a character thing, is do what you're supposed to do. And we're
Hmm.
just going to keep it really, really simple. And we can get really complicated with these, but what you're supposed to do at this point in your life. We got 15, 16, 17-year-old kids. You know what you're supposed to do. So do what you're supposed to do. And that's going to take care of a lot of the problems that we run into.
Hmm.
Commitment, be where you're supposed to be. Um, and we're really big on communication. I've told them, that's the one thing that you can't, that's not excused. If you can't
Hmm.
communicate with us, then we have a problem. If you communicate with me, I might not like where you're at or what you're doing right now instead of being here with us, but at least we have a starting point. But if we're not communicating, and our kids have really been doing well with that. We're just into the first week of the summer. And I had a couple of kids that something popped up, and they text me in the morning, hey, I can't be here. And we might rearrange it because we do weights twice a day. I said, okay, well, if you can't be here in the morning, remember we got the afternoon session. Let's get into the afternoon. And so we try and do everything we can to give our kids opportunities, and give them chances to practice those principles.
How do you adapt your coaching style to different personalities?
Uh, that's probably been maybe the toughest thing for me, and it's really, as we've gone on, I remember, playing myself. You do what your coach tells you to. We've
Hmm.
got a different group of kids that really need to know a why behind what it is that we do. And so I really try and make it a point of them understanding, if we're doing a drill, this is why this drill pertains to what we're going to see on Friday night. And we try and make that accessible in the first place. If your drill doesn't relate to Friday night, then we're not doing it.
Hmm.
So we really make sure that we simplify everything down. We don't we've got a sled. We'll use it in the summer for conditioning for linemen, but we don't do a lot of true sled work during the season because it doesn't really match up with our zone game. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so making sure that they understand what it is we're doing and why we're doing it. And then I'll even say I fault with that because my coaches yelled at me and I knew it was passion. I was always told if I'm not yelling at you, then you should be concerned because there's a good chance I'm giving up on you. But
Mm-hmm.
some of our kids don't react that way anymore. And so I try to be conscious of that. I still probably yell too much. But like I said, it comes from a point of passion. And I try and get our coaches, we're constantly trying to remind ourselves and each other, um, you know, this kid doesn't respond this way. And so that's the other part is staying in contact and being in a small school. We share coaches as much as we share athletes. So, like I said, when I came here, I was coaching football, basketball. I coached some softball. Even today, I've continued to coach football throughout. I continue to coach basketball throughout. At this point, I'm a volunteer basketball coach because of my other responsibilities, but I'm still around all through the basketball season.
Mm-hmm.
And I also coach. I am an assistant golf coach now. So, we see our kids in all different types of settings, and we see how they react. And I try and always, see how maybe another coach is dealing with a kid, and how can I bring that back and use that back at football. And so we're constantly talking with each other about what works. I was, just talking to the wrestling coach last night about an athlete that we share and how we relate to them differently and what's working with that athlete. So
Mm-hmm. So, Coach, as you know, the whole transfer thing's going on. I've asked almost every coach about
yeah.
this. What's your opinion on it?
Uh, well, we haven't seen it play out yet, so I'm obviously we have to see what
Mm-hmm.
happens. There are open transfer rules in other states that are very chaotic because they are completely open at pretty much any time. I do like that this is an attempt at providing a kid an opportunity to move to a school if something's not working for them, because we preach second chances and they should have that same opportunity in choosing a school.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see the one-time transfer, uh, but I don't know how much it's going to affect us. Within our area, we have 4 high schools in our county. Very few times have we seen another school block an athlete transferring from one to another. We just
Mm-hmm.
graduated in our last graduating class. We had 2 students move in from other schools, that those schools signed off on those kids as seniors to move into Wabash and
Mm-hmm.
participate. We also provide, as an early college high school, we provide a lot of opportunities that other schools don't. So under the old transfer rules, we could have anybody transfer in to join our early college program, which is not something that was offered in the other schools. And so there
Mm-hmm.
weren't really, it actually may restrict in some ways in some areas where you can see all the times kids transferring from one school to another every year. This may actually make it harder for kids in some areas to transfer because there
Mm-hmm.
are no other options or sign offs. It's a one time. You got that one chance. So I'll be interested to see how it plays out, but I really don't think it's going to have a big effect in our area.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'd like to ask that question because it affect like if it's not affecting a 1A school, it could affect a 6A school.
Mm-hmm.
But it really depends on from school to school. Like
Yeah.
you said, you have 4 schools in your whole county.
Yes. And yeah, and that's so. And we're all small schools, but um, like I said, we haven't really blocked anybody yet. So I don't think it's going to be a big issue in ours. Now I could say that, and sure, I've been wrong before, but um, we'll see how it plays out. I mean, we're going to play by the rules that are given to us, and it's just like teaching. You have to be flexible, and we adapt every year.
Hmm. Um, what's the most challenging part of coaching at Wabash?
Um, well, I don't know if it's necessarily Wabash itself. I think coaching. every year gets a little bit harder as kids have more and more opportunities out there, as kids play particular, they got their favorite sport, and they want to play it year round, and there's more and more opportunities for that. So the biggest challenge is getting kids out, is getting kids onto the field, and asking them to devote time. And I think sometimes we take that for granted, and it's like, well, why aren't they just coming out? Well, they have a lot of opportunities with the time that they have, and it's limited time. And so we do struggle with numbers. We want to have enough to practice and to be competitive, and that's an issue that we've dealt with. But I think it's a small school issue that everybody's dealing with. How do you encourage a kid who maybe isn't looking at their favorite sport here? How do you get them onto the field? And it's more and more, or we try and press the other kids. We've got some schools in the area that do a really good job of, seems like all of their kids play because the kids encourage each other. Our kids are really accommodating to kids, to their peers doing what they want. And so if a kid's not going to play this, they don't pressure them as much, which works on both sides. It's great for a kid in our area not to feel pressured to do this or to do that. But sometimes as a coach, I'd like them to be pushing their friends a little bit more towards the field to help us out. So.
All right. What's your process for selecting captains?
So when I took over 3 years ago, we had always done the athletes vote on captains, and but when I took over, I wanted to expand it first off, because it tended to be that we had mostly seniors, usually 4 or 5 captains, and at least 4 of the 5 would be seniors, and then you got 1 junior, and you're coming back starting over again. So I started a tribal council, something that would be year-round active as well, and we set certain criteria to it. Being a varsity letter winner was a requirement. Not being in trouble. If you're getting written up and you're in the office, if you're an ISD, then you're not really a reflection of what we want leading the program. Grades are an issue that we want. We are well-rounded student athletes first, and so we have these criteria that we've been playing with. This past year, we started up with leadership meetings on Mondays in the spring, working towards our summer, so that we had our kids ready to go as the summer started, starting to try and implement some of those leadership practices and starting to build leadership before we get into the season.
Excellent. Coach, what does it mean to wear the Wabash W on your team's helmet?
Well, we actually wear the feathers, but we got the Wabash on our chest. We always preach to the kids that when we're playing, we talk about playing for the name on the front of the jersey, not the name on the back. And we don't put names on the back, but they understand the reference. And that comes down again to when we talk about what we're about. I mentioned the CLC, or the character, leadership, and commitment, but then we also talk about our priorities and how we rank those. And as student athletes, I tell them all the time that we deal first off with family, then we deal with school, then we deal with football. And so when we talk about playing for that name on the front, we're talking about school, and we're talking about we play for our family, we play for our community. We put ourselves down at the bottom of that list then. And so we really want them to be a reflection of what we're trying to do. We do a youth camp in the late summer, early fall. We encourage our leaders to kind of run that thing. We're constantly referencing the idea that the kids that show up on Friday night, even if they're down in the back end zone, kind of throwing a football around, they know who they are. And I've been fortunate that I've had two sons go through the program, and our players from an early time got to see my my senior who just graduated was getting off a bus when he was 5 years old and coming to the practice field. And so,
Mm-hmm.
and our other coaches have had kids at the field. And so our kids know, or our athletes know that there are kids always looking around and watching them, and they are there, they're their fans, and they have something to, they need to be representing the school and the community in the right way. We also try and get out and help and serve in the community whenever we can. At the end of school, we spend an afternoon at one of our local church schools, helping to move some classrooms around. We've got something coming up next month, helping at our local community center. And so again, we're really trying to create this understanding of service to the W, or to the greater community around us.
Mm-hmm. How do you define a win beyond the scoreboard?
Well, when we're looking at wins, or when we're looking at success, at the end of the day, I said we're a student. We're building student athletes and students first, and
Mm-hmm.
we want our kids to walk across the stage at the end of their 4 years as successful students, and be prepared to enter the workforce, or go on to additional training, or go on to school. And we've been fortunate for the most part to have our student athletes do that. So our first off, our success is, did we graduate our student athletes? I think the second part of that is, what kind of character, again, are they walking out with? We're trying to build men for our community. And I think football is one of the greatest sports for continuing to build men of character, of discipline and sacrifice and hard work. And so that's really what we're our driving force with our kids. When it comes to the field itself, competitiveness. At the end of the day, yeah, we want to win games, obviously, and we want to have the higher point total on the scoreboard. But did you come out and compete? And did you give everything you had, not just for yourself, but for the guy that you lined up next to, for the guy that you've been working with all week and all season, and in the off season, and did you hold each other accountable, and did you rise to that challenge? And if you've done those things, then at the end of the game, you're going to have a chance to win. And sometimes you don't have the control over that. It may come down to a coaching decision, and I'll take them when I fail at them. It may come down to a break that worked out for the other team, because you know what, they're working just as hard, and their coaches are working just as hard. And so you're right, we have to measure success in different ways, and a lot of times for us, the biggest one is, are we competing on a weekly basis?
All right, Coach. So we're gonna take a gander at your schedule.
Okay.
First off, you got McConaughey.
Yep.
Great team. Great team. North Miami, Manchester, Rochester, Southwood, Northfield, Northwestern, Lewis Cass, and Whitco.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty decent schedule. Mostly conference.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen that many conference games on a schedule ever.
Yeah, we're a 10-team conference, and we went to one non-conference game. Oh, it's been a number of years now. I'd have to go back and look at when the last time we had two non-cons. And so we do it on a rotating schedule. So Lewis Cass just joined our conference 2 years ago. And so this will be the first chance we play them, because again, we rotate through. And so the other team that's not on that schedule that's in our conference is Peru. And we've played Peru the last 2 years. And so they dropped off our schedule, and Lewis Cass is now on it for the next 2 years. And so that's how every school gets to play play 8 of the 10 teams, because obviously we're one of them too. But so it'll shuffle the schedule a little bit. McConaughey for the last 2 years has been one of our final 2 games. And when it shuffles, they get kicked to the front. So the first year I took over, McConaughey was our first game as well. McConaughey is definitely a tough one.
Yes.
Coach Fenders has done an excellent job there when he took over last year. I know some of those kids or know their parents, because I actually graduated from McConaughey. So it's it's always mixed feelings going back. It's
Mhm.
been a number of years since I've gone back and felt any. I'm an Apache now. There's no question about that. Don't really when we're there. There's no uh, mixed allegiances. We want to win.
Right.
Um, but they're a strong team. They're going to continue to be a strong team. They've got a very talented quarterback. They graduated some receivers, but they've got a lot of talent coming back. And we had a tough time with them this last year, and
Mhm.
right now again we're hoping to come in and compete. Those early games for our schedule, we don't have a soft front schedule, and we never have. Um,
Mhm.
we just picked up North Miami because they were a former conference team that they transferred conferences last year, and so we wanted them back on our schedule as a former conference team. So we switched out Alexandria, but Alexandria is a strong program as well. So we've always started off really strong. Rochester's usually in our first couple of games, or McConaughey, depending on how it is. Again,
Mhm.
Alexandria is historically a tough team, so we really challenge ourselves early, and it also then it's a challenge for our kids, because if we have a rough start, how do we handle that? With our headspace, can we stay involved during that time?
Oh, shoot. All right, coach.
Okay. So we, like I said, we start off pretty tough, but then um, you know, tribal councils talked about goals for this year. Number one goal is winning county. And so when we look at that, we can get off. We may even get off to a rough start. Who knows? McConaughey's gonna be very good. North Miami uh, went on into some postseason success last year, so
Mhm.
it's going to be a tough start. And so I asked them, I said, what happens if we struggle in the beginning? Can we still reach our goal? Well, sure, because Manchester's not till week 3. And that's our first real challenge when it comes to that goal of winning the county. We had some success last year in terms of defeating Southwood, which was the first time we defeated Southwood since, I believe it was 2008. So that was a big game for our kids. We dropped a game to Manchester last year, but we beat Manchester 2 years ago. It seems like the biggest obstacle for us has been Northfield. Northfield's very well coached by Coach
Mhm.
Walker, and they run the triple, and they run it better every week. And so it seems like by week 6, by week 7, whenever we see them each season, they have the balls that might have got on the ground in week 2 aren't doing that anymore. And so by the time they get to us, we have to be ready to play a really good game. And we have not been successful in doing that. I think one of our biggest issues when it comes to that with the county schools has been a mental block.
Uh-huh.
It's just that belief in ourselves. And so, like I said, I think beating Southwood last year was a huge deal for our kids in terms of understanding
Mhm.
that confidence. They're confident that they've played with Manchester in the last couple of years, even though Manchester was very good last year as well.
Mhm.
But that big stumbling block is, can we beat Northfield? Because these kids have not seen a Wabash team beat Northfield probably in the time they've been at school. They
Mhm.
have no memory of that, and so it's always interesting when you're in a small community where there's multiple high schools, and these kids grow up playing youth sports together, and then they break apart when they get to high school, and
Right.
just seeing how they interact or understand each other, is always interesting to me. I grew up in Miami County before North Miami, Peru, and McConaughey were in the same conferences. So we didn't, in football, we didn't play each other except in the jamboree. And so we didn't, you didn't really have, and that was a huge deal because we were going to get to play one quarter against them, and that was it. Um, but we didn't get to face each other in conference play like schools do today. So
Gotcha. Um, Move on to another question here. What's a typical weekly prep look like for you and your team?
uh, we so we meet as a staff on Sunday evenings. We
Okay.
try and meet a little later so that our staff can have the whole kind of weekend to their family now, and that allows them to be watching film as it fits into their schedule. around
Gotcha.
their family time. So then we try and meet, like I said, meet in Sunday evening, hopefully after dinner, once they've had a chance to sit down with their kids or younger kids, put them to bed, help out with those types of things. And then we meet for an hour or so that night and kind of see what we've all been looking at. Mondays are our big film day. We're going to come in and our kids are going to look at film, sometimes position wise. Definitely, we're going to break up offense and defense. We're going to have notes in there on huddle from our coaches. Have already made notes from the weekend from when they were watching film to start with. We're going to do a quick look at what we need to clean up, and then we're going to move on to the opponent that's coming ahead, and we're going to get that in on Monday as well. Monday is also JV games in our conference with 2-team games. So a lot of times that's just going to be the varsity kids that are in during that time. After special teams, we'll usually start film with special teams because we have a lot of JV kids that'll play that. And then we let the JV kids go to get ready for their game. We'll finish up kind of our prep, and then we'll hit the field. And Wednesdays is usually very light. Again, those JV kids are out, are playing, so they're not on the field with us. We're a small team, so it's not like we're going to be able to line up and actually go at it for a full practice. So Monday's very much a mental day, getting prepared for the week ahead. Tuesdays and Wednesdays are our real, really obviously like most people when we're going to get at it. But we do, and everybody's different. We do offense and defense on both days. We don't have an offensive day and a defensive day. So we split the practice pretty evenly. It's within probably 20 minutes of each other in terms of an offense. If one day is offensive focused, it means that they got an extra 15 minutes that the defense did. And that's because a lot of our kids play both ways. So we want them to have the same, they need multiple days of experience working at whatever it is we're asking them to do this week. And we also, if you have a kid who is a one-way player predominantly, we still want him to practice both sides of the ball, but I want him to be engaged on both days. And I've seen in the past where there's days like, well, Tuesday's defensive day and I don't play offense. I'm a linebacker. So Tuesday's my on day and Wednesday I take the day off. And so we want the kids to understand that we're on every day.
Right.
So that's why we have that going on. And then Thursday is our game prep, like with most people. But then we finish our Thursdays are real short. They're about an hour and 15, and then we're out and we do a team dinner every Thursday night. Opportunity we go over to the cafeteria. Some days cafeteria provides it. Some days we get outside boosters supplying it. But the kids sit down and they have a meal together. It's a chance to talk about just to talk, just to hang out, put the cell phones away, and we're going to interact with each other. And then, we'll talk about, whatever maybe our focus was for the week, reminding them that. And then the final thing is just reminding them about being student athletes and showing up to school on time on Friday and getting their stuff done. And then usually after that, because Thursdays tends to be a day where we'll have either girls soccer or girls volleyball going on. So a lot of times, a lot of our kids, when they get done eating, they'll then go to one of those events together and be the cheering section for one of those teams, because those kids are always showing up for us on Friday nights.
Gotcha. Yeah, so super similar from when I was in high school, except we did offense on Tuesday and defense on Wednesday.
And we had that. Yeah, we had that focus too. I found that they stay more engaged when we do both of them. And if you're putting in something new, you don't want to just focus on it one day. We want to get as many reps in as we can. So
right. Yeah, totally agree.
All right, Coach. So to end up every episode, I like to ask some questions about your team that, like, not so serious side of football.
Okay.
So who would you say the funniest guy on this year's Apache squad?
The funniest guy? Oh, I don't know. I mean, they all are different. They have, they're entertaining in their own ways. We've got some great kids. I would say if I had to pick one, I don't know if it's not old Chuck Norris. He is a great kid. he always tends to get people smiling during practice. He works hard. He can be goofy, but he's always showing up to. He's a JV kid that's always showing up to help get the team ready, and he's going to be a junior this year, so we'll see what his role looks like this year. But I know our line coach, he's an offensive and defensive lineman, and I know our O-line coach likes to have a lot of fun with him. So, and I've known him for a long time. His older brother played for me as well, and he's just a good kid.
So, what player or coach has the best nickname on the team?
The best nickname?
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow. I'm trying to think. We've had some great ones in the past. I don't know if we have any right now that are just flat out amazing.
Go ahead, name one from the past.
We have one of my favorite past groups. We had a set of brothers named that were called the Robinson. They were the Robinsons. Anyway, they come from Philadelphia, but I don't know why. One of our assistant line coaches got in his head when he saw them that they looked like they were darker complected. He thought they were from they looked Polynesian, and I never understood that because I'm like, Coach, they're Italian Americans. He's like, oh, I didn't get that. So the oldest one, because he always had nicknames for everybody. So he called the oldest one Hawaii. And then the next one came up and he's like, that's his brother. I said, yeah. He goes, well, I don't know what to call him. I was like, you have to pick out something. So the younger one became Maui. And it's funny because they had moved into our area from middle of Pennsylvania. And I'm going, I have no idea how you got to Hawaii from there. But yeah, he was the guy who really usually came up with nicknames. He's still around as an equipment guy for us. But yeah, we don't have any standouts yet this year. But again, we just started this week, and I'm sure we'll come up with something.
If this team were a movie, who would play Coach Ryan Carmichael?
Oh wow. That's a good question. There's 3 or 4 teachers around the school that people try to confuse me with, but I don't know about an actor. Kevin James, probably. I think he could grow a beard.
I think he could too. Okay. Who on your coaching staff would win a 40-yard dash?
The 40-yard dash?
Mm-hmm.
Today, because we're all over 40 years old, I don't know if we'd make it that far. Well, we would once. I'll tell you, it would probably be. If I get to use middle school staff, I have 3 kids I coach there down there. They can still run. But if we're talking the varsity staff, it would probably be our wide receiver coach, Kent Montgomery. He could move in high school, and I bet he could probably do it once.
So, what player on your team is the motivational spark plug?
I think we have a few guys who really try and push forward. Now, we graduated a couple of our tribal council members last year, a couple of our seniors that were 4-year starters, and the guys that weren't afraid to get into people and try and get them moving. Obviously, our quarterback, Hayden McWard, is going to be expected to be that kind of guy. And he's already started to step up that in the summer, contacting freshmen and getting them to like our community service thing last week and making sure they get there and they get to practice. And so right now, I would say he's kind of got the early lead. Again, we've had 1 open field and a couple of weight sessions, but he seems to be wanting to make it happen. And I kind of think he's going to fill into that role pretty well this year. We'll have others I know that'll step up, but it's too early to we're not going to crown.
Too early to tell.
Yeah.
So, which one of your players is most likely to star on reality TV?
On reality TV? Oh, wow. See, and here's the thing. I'm going to offend 3 or 4 of them if I only give them one, because they could end up, they could end up on a group of 5 of them out there. We've got some seniors that I could see on a reality show. our starting running back Noah Baldwin, Devon Osborne, our wide receiver. I could see them. Corbin Brumley, who's a receiver and a corner for us. I could see any of the three of them. And then again, like I said, I'm going to leave somebody out that's like, Coach, I'd have been on a reality show. I'd do it. What kind of reality show are you talking about? Again, I'd go back to old Chuck Norris. We going to do Motor Trend or something? He'd go on there and take apart a diesel engine for you in no time. So it depends on what kind of show you want to have too.
Right. So my last question today is: who on your coaching staff would most likely be famous for something that's not football?
That's not football?
Uh-huh.
Oh, well, who would be? I'll tell you honestly, our offensive coordinator, Paul Wright, is a 1,000-point scorer for 2 different colleges. He went to Huntington University and to Anderson University as a basketball player. So I guess you're talking, local legend. That would be him. So I guess that's an easy one to go with.
All right, Coach. I want to thank you again for coming on. I'm Bryan Jones. He's Coach Ryan Carmichael. Thank you.